Hi, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as artbyro.com, where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. In today's video, we're going to be drawing what I call whimsical houses. These are great for beginners. They don't have to be perfect. They're so much fun and they're really cute. And they're great for artist trading cards. So if you're a beginner artist or you're just looking for something a little bit different to make, this could be a good video for you to watch. If you enjoy the video, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. They both really help us out. And if you have any questions or if something's not clear, leave a comment and I'll be sure to answer any questions that you have. Also, if you're a self-taught artist and you're looking for a plan to follow to learn art and drawing, check out the link in the description box for the Your Artistic Journey course. And now let's go ahead and go on over to the studio and get started on today's drawing. In this video, we're going to be drawing what I refer to as whimsical houses. These are fun, crazy, not very realistic looking houses, but they are just so much fun to draw. You can make these cool little villages, and they're very relaxing because since they're not based on reality, you have a little bit of freedom to make some mistakes, not worry about things being straight and perfect and all those sorts of things. So let's go ahead and get started. Usually you can do one house or you can do a series of houses like a little village. So what I like to do typically is to start out by maybe drawing some hills in the foreground because we're going to make kind of a little scene here. So you could just do a couple hills. And like I said, it's very whimsical. It's very free and liberating to do this type of drawing because you don't really have to put a ton of thought into it. You're just adding the elements and focusing more on what you can do to keep it fun. That's the key here, is we want this to be fun. We always want our artwork to be enjoyable to make, but oftentimes we put so much pressure on the outcome and everything being perfect and not leaving any room for mistakes. So this gets us away from that a little bit. So all I'm doing is making some different trees or bushes. We can overlap them. Not worry too much about any specific details yet. And there's not going to be a ton of detail. This isn't going to be a super detailed drawing. You can make it more detailed if you want, or less detailed. It's whatever style you want your drawing to be. So here's my first house. That's the house. I'm going to add a roof to it. And as you can see, there's nothing too realistic about what we're doing here, other than we do need to make sure that the viewer can look at it and know that it is a house. We do want it to look like a house. So we're going to add some windows. And again, these do not need to be perfect. We're not worried about making everything perfect. Things do not have to be perfectly symmetrical or even. And as you can see, the houses are not straight at all. So we're just going to make another house over here. And there's a lot of different styles you can make these. Different ways to do the windows, the roof, the siding on the house. And again, you can put as many or as few houses as you want to put in here. I'm just going to add a couple just to give you an idea. of what we're going for here. So there's my houses. I could have added more in here. You could add smaller ones off in the background. Give it a little bit of depth to your drawing. And then we're also going to add in some different patterns and textures to the drawing. But we can do that with a pen. We don't necessarily need to draw all that out with a pencil first. So I'm gonna grab my pen and we're gonna work on that next. For this drawing, I'm going to be using my Sharpie pen, which if you've seen any of my previous videos, I use this pen a lot. It is my go-to pen for my drawings. So I'm just gonna start by tracing over top of my pencil lines. And then we're going to fill in some patterns and textures afterwards. And what we need to do is just trace over all of these pencil lines. And make sure you're going over the ones that you want to keep. So if you drew in a way that was a little bit more sketchy, then you'll want to make sure you're tracing over the lines that are the good ones that are part of your drawing. So just tracing over everything. We're going to do the same thing for the house. Not worrying too much about perfectionism. We want to try to get away from that. Unless you're trying to be a professional artist or make your living with your art, I think it's better to just keep things relaxing and fun and enjoyable. I consider myself a hobby artist, so I'm doing this for myself, for my own enjoyment. So I am not worried about trying to impress people with my artwork. Therefore, I do not need it to be perfect. What I need is to enjoy the process of what I'm doing, so that I want to keep doing that, and also so that when I am doing it, it's relaxing for me. So we have everything outlined. So now we want to start adding in some different textures. So for the roof, I'm just going to add some lines in here. And I'm not super worried about them being even. I want them to be somewhat even. I don't want them to be too random. But I'm certainly not worried about them being completely perfect. And then for this roof, we're going to do the scallop pattern. And then fill these in black here, and then we'll continue that down. And I'll do some of this as a time lapse so we're not boring you with repetition here. And then I'm gonna make some, it's like little, make it look like brick or siding. I think these lines make it look like it's brick, but without having to do the full brick pattern on here. And again, you can add as much or as little as you want. Since this is a fantasy type drawing, we can put some dots on the buildings. And then for the trees, we can do a lot of different patterns on here. We can do lines. And if you go outside a little bit, just go back over. And then for the hills, what I want to do is, I can get a good angle on this. I want to add a series of like stripes or banding on here, and these I am going to make different sizes. And then each one of those can have a different pattern in them. So we can do just a series of big dots in there. We can do stripes going this way. And then maybe do a dot every other one. We can do a squiggly line. Maybe we'll add some dots in here. We could do just lines. So I think you get the idea with that. So all that's left to do is finish adding in the patterns on the rest of these, and then I think this one, and some of these can just be a solid color. They don't all have to have a pattern in there. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up off camera, or do a time lapse, get the rest of these patterns filled in, and then I'll be back when I have that part of it done. Alright, so I got everything outlined. I got some patterns in here. So the next thing is to take a block eraser and get rid of all your pencil lines before putting some color on here. I'm going to be using markers. You could also use watercolors or really whatever colored pencils, whatever you prefer using. But we want to get those pencil lines off of there first because we don't want them poking through our colors. So the next thing is you want to get some colors, figure out what kind of colors you want to use in here. What I do is I use these little scrap papers. I'm doing my drawing on an artist trading card, which is usually what I do. I like them for many reasons. One, because they're smaller. It saves me a lot of time. I can get more artwork done in less time. And that gives me more opportunities to practice and experiment, try different things, work on my skills. And I also like that I can put them in a binder, and then it makes just kind of like a mini portfolio. And if I want to trade them, which eventually I will, then I can trade my cards to other artists. So what I do is I take a piece of cardstock, a full sheet of cardstock. I cut them down into 2.5 by 3.5, and you can get 10 individual artist trading cards out of one sheet of paper. So they're very economical. And then there's these little scrap pieces, and I use those to test out my markers. So what you want to do is pick whichever colors you want and test them out on the paper. So if you want, I'm using alcohol markers, and I've been trying to use up these little cheapo markers that somebody got me, but they're not the best, especially if you want to blend the colors together. But I've been trying to at least use them occasionally when I can. So what I found with these markers is that if you keep working the same area, which I will do with some of my drawings, it depends on the type of drawing I'm doing, but if you keep working the area with these markers, it oversaturates the paper, and then they bleed all over the place, and then you have to go in and try to fix them, which you can by adding a heavier outline to them. But we really don't want to make extra work for ourselves. We want to keep things somewhat efficient. But what I like to do with the markers, and for this type of drawing you don't necessarily need to do multiple markers in your area. You could do just solid color, will work well. But what I like to do is put the lightest color down and then do my next lightest, a little bit, whatever's a little bit darker, put that down, and then I go back over with the lighter marker on the edges where the two meet and soften that up a little bit. So that's not super necessary for this type of drawing because we're not doing anything that's overly realistic. So it's not completely necessary to try to get that gradation of color in there. But it is kind of fun to do. So it's up to you if you want to do solid colors or if you want to do more of a gradation of colors and use 2 or 3 different markers. If you're new to markers, you just need to make sure that they are alcohol based. And you can mix and match different brands. They don't have to be all the same brands. Most of them, if you get a set of markers, they come with what's called a colorless blender, which is just, I'm assuming, a pen filled with alcohol. And you can use those to blend out your areas. I typically don't do that. It's just one more marker to try to keep track of. So I will normally just go over it with that lighter color. So we're just going to keep filling in the areas with color. You could make your windows however you want to make them. I'm going to put some yellow in there so it's kind of an indication that the lights are on in the house. And just going through, filling in all the different areas. You can use multiple markers inside the windows if you want. It makes it look a little bit more detailed, I think, when you do that. It just kind of takes it to the next level, but like I said, it's not at all necessary to do multiple colors of markers or to use multiple shades, I guess it would be, of a marker. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing with the trees. Start filling the trees in. And for the trees, I'll probably just use a combination of some yellows, greens. You can mix and match them. So that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much more I can say about this. I think it's pretty straightforward. I do need to find some lighter greens. This marker set does not have very much variety. It's just a cheap, it's got 30 markers and 2 blenders, and it's something that someone bought for me as a gift, and trying, you know, somebody that was trying to do something nice, not really understanding that those cheap marker sets that you get at the hobby stores, I think she said she got them at Hobby Lobby, they're not the best for trying to do this type of artwork, or to use them in the way that I use them. But I appreciated the gesture, and I do try to use them a little bit if I can, but they're not the greatest for sure. So I think I'll go ahead and do this off camera, and then I will be back when I have the colors finished. The colors are all done now. I have everything filled in. The only thing left to do is I want to go over some areas and add some more patterns with white, and I'm going to do that with a jelly roll pen. Before I can do that though, I need to let the alcohol evaporate off the paper. If you touch it and it's cold, then there's still alcohol that hasn't evaporated yet, and this is cold to the touch, so I know it's still, the paper's kind of saturated. So I'm going to let this dry, let the alcohol evaporate, and then I will come back and we will finish this artist trading card up. Now that this is dry, the alcohol has evaporated out of the card, it doesn't feel cold anymore. I can go ahead with my Jelly Roll pen and start adding in some more detail in here with the white. You don't have to do this, and you could also do it with maybe like a paint pen, or you could use a colored pencil. And it's kind of hard to see on some of these lighter colors, but it's there. I don't know how much the camera will pick up on it, but, and like I said, you don't have to do this. This is totally optional. It adds a little something to the drawing though, I think. Just to put a little bit of variation in it. Add a little contrast with the black and the white, because there are quite a few designs going on in here with the black, so we can contrast it with the white. You could add some white highlights into your houses if you want. Again, totally optional. Just kind of look at your drawing and see where you think it might add to it if you add some white. And just keep in mind that you have your patterns and follow along with what you have going on as far as your patterns go. Keep that in mind. Add a couple little white dots in there. And then you can also add some stars to help break all this background up. Add a little extra detail there. You could do some little starbursts in there. Make sure you get some by the edges, and also kind of behind where the houses are at. Don't be afraid to get right up next to your trees and your houses and the hills and whatnot. So you don't want to have a big ring around all your objects you got in there. Same thing with the edge. It looks a little bit better if you get right up onto the edge. So that's pretty much done. You can put some different size stars in here. Make some bigger, some smaller. Add a couple little starbursts in there. And that's it for the little whimsical house, little village. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy creating! That's it for today's art tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to like it and also subscribe if you want to get notified for future videos. And also don't forget to check out the description box. There's some links in there to some freebies, as well as that link to our course, Your Artistic Journey. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!